In this tutorial, we're going to look at the Gmail settings and in particular the labels settings. The first thing we do is once we get into our email, we will go to the options wheel. We can either go here to this Google gear or this one here and select settings. Once we're in settings, we can go here to labels. And the first thing we see are called system labels: inbox, starred, important. Those items that we cannot change their names or delete them. They're part of the Gmail system. We do, however, with everything except the inbox, have the option to hide them. So for example, if I didn't want to see starred or important, I could come here and hit hide and they would disappear from my list. Likewise, I can also do what is called show if unread. For example, drafts is set show if unread. If I come here to drafts and delete this one, disregard drafts, you'll notice the drafts folder is now gone. That is because of the setting here. So this is personal preference, how you want to look at your labels. I probably would keep starred turned on because sometimes I want to look at just my starred emails. But I don't use the important feature, so I would hide it. So again, this is personal preference. You then have the labels that you have created. That's the second section for most of you. You have a button here where you can create a new label, but then you see in alphabetical order all of your labels. Now for those who moved from Outlook to Gmail, all of your Outlook folders were converted over to Gmail and became what are called labels. For some of you, you ended up with a lot of labels. You can use this feature to hide some of those folders or those labels so you don't have to see them. For example, I could, if I wanted to, come here and say hide the coworkers label, and then all of the sub-labels underneath would be hidden as well. You will also notice show labels in list. That's what we see here on the left. And then we have show in message list. So for example, if I come down here under coworkers and I have this label called Krista, I can tell it in the message list to hide. And then when I come back, I see here the email from Krista does not have a label attached to it. But when I have it, that feature turned on to show the label in the messages, come down to Krista again, and I say show, then you see the label. Again, that's personal preference, whether you want to see the labels here or only see them on the left-hand side. But you can have it with both, which is what I prefer. So you can come through, you can edit a label. For example, here maybe I don't want this to say cabinet, I want it to say IMT cabinet. I could either click here and make the change, or I could come to edit. If I'm just changing the name, coming here and saying just clicking on it and adding IMT cabinet is the fastest way. Now as soon as I rename this, it's going to move IMT cabinet and all of the sub or nested labels with it. And you'll notice in just a few seconds it popped down and it's now down here under the eyes. Another thing that you often want to do is, for example, here I have a label called coworkers and then I have nested labels for all of my coworkers. Well, maybe I've decided I don't want Dante Cordova to be a nested label of coworkers. Here I can come to edit and say uncheck this nest label under and then save. That will move Dante from being part of coworkers, as I scroll down, and here he is as an individual, as a top level folder like we had in Outlook, or here a top level label. Likewise, the opposite of that, to create and move Dante back as a nested label of coworkers, again I would come to edit, I would check the nest label under, And then when I hit the down arrow, I would pick what top level label I wanted him to be under. I could even take my nested labels to an additional level, to a third level. But for most part, I prefer just the 2 levels. So then I hit save. That's going to move Dante's label back up to coworkers here. You will notice here, for example, I have a folder called a miscellaneous folder. There's 8 conversations. I no longer need this label or want this label. I can come over here and click remove. Now you'll notice that it's removing the label from 8 conversations and delete the label. It does not delete the email messages or the conversations that are currently labeled as miscellaneous folder. If I wanted to do that, what I would do to delete those 8 conversations is I would then come over here to the navigation, click a miscellaneous, then I would check all of these and delete. That's the only way to get rid of the messages. If I just want to get rid of the label, I can do that with the settings, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to remove the label. The label will be deleted, but the email messages that were associated to that label are still there. They still exist. If you have any questions or comments about how to use labels, please feel free to contact training@apu.edu.